Welcome everyone. Thank you for coming to listen to our talk on clinical trials. And what we're going to do to start is just to go over a few basic concepts about clinical trials so that everybody's on the same page. So more specifically, we'll just talk about what clinical trials really are, factors that can help you decide if you ever have to choose and participate in one, and other resources that will help you learn more about clinical trials. So I wanted to start by just showing you a few terms. I don't know if you can read them all, but where I work in the Cancer Information Service, we do talk to people about clinical trials, whether they're patients, family members, even the public, and they often have a lot of perceptions about what they think trials are. Some people think that they're really leading edge, innovative, really positive perceptions, something they can't wait to be involved in. Other people are much more tentative. They feel scared. They think they're going to be used as a guinea pig. They're going to be experimented on. Some people want to explore all options before they make a treatment decision, so standard options as well as what's in research. Some people don't know anything about trials, but they may have been asked to participate in one on their first visit. But I just wanted to put this up just to show you that there really is a huge scope of what people come to clinical trials with, what they think about them. And we'll try to work through some of the misperceptions that might be present. So what clinical trials really are research studies. And they're looking for better ways to manage cancer, and that can be in many different aspects. And if you think back to elementary school science class where you have a hypothesis and you want to prove it, essentially that's what these studies are trying to do, but in a clinical setting. And as studies are positive and evidence gets built, then the practice of cancer changes, and sometimes the behaviors that patients adopt also change. Now there can be many different types of trials, and if you look where the dark blue is, it's where it says treatment. That's, I think, what we think of most when we think about clinical studies, that they're looking at new ways to treat cancer, new cures. And a lot of work does go on in that area. But if we come counterclockwise down to the orange section, it says diagnosis. And there also are trials that look at different tests. They look at things in the lab, how cells behave, and a lot of the information that comes out of those types of tests will help with better planning of treatment. If we keep going backwards, it goes to detection, which is really just screening and looking for cancers early in people that you wouldn't expect to have cancer. They don't have any symptoms. And these are often very large clinical trials. And the work of many of those trials have brought us today to having things like organized breast screening programs with mammography, cervical screening programs, colorectal screening programs. So they really do change the way we look at primary care. And then if we keep on moving, there's prevention. And these are really, this is really of interest to everyone in the population, is trying to find out if we can prevent cancers from ever starting. So this is looking at things like diet and exercise, sometimes vitamins or particular drugs. And then if we go across the pink bar, you'll see there's survivorship. And there's some parallels between prevention for everyone and survivorship trials that are often for a particular group of cancer patients who really are trying to look for a similar outcome. They don't want cancer to come back. But because they've had cancer, they wouldn't be looking at prevention trials. So there's lots of different ways that clinical trials can go on in the cancer context. Another concept is around phases of trials. And you'll see that going down the left-hand column, they do go from phase 1 to 4, and this is largely around new drugs and new treatments. They start small numbers of patients, and they're really looking at how safe is it and what is the dose that we need to treat with. Once they know that and that things are looking positive, they can go to an effectiveness or efficacy trial and see how well a drug or a treatment actually works. You can test on a few more patients, maybe a few more locations, and ultimately work up to a phase 3 trial, which is where you get the chance to compare to current practices. So this can often involve hundreds or thousands of patients, multiple centers, many countries will participate, and that evidence can all come together to hopefully lead us to new and better treatments that can be approved by governments. And then provinces will decide how that gets funded. Once they're available and prescribed, they continue to monitor. So an organization like Health Canada will continue to monitor what our patients experience. They sometimes call that post-approval trials or phase 4, so that if things have some unusual side effects, they can keep track of that. But generally, we're moving up through the phases to get to new and better ways. Some of the principles of clinical trials, and you can see the graphic on the side just shows a lot of boxes and lines connecting, and they're often very complex. But essentially, when a clinical trial is developed, there's a master plan. They have to figure out, what are we doing, who are we treating, how are we going to do it, when, what are we going to measure, how do we write it down. All these things are documented, and that's your protocol. And along with that, they go for ethics approval, which means that they have to be sure that the patients who are going to participate will be safe and their privacy will be protected. So if that can't be guaranteed, then it won't get approval to go forward. There will be eligibility criteria, and this is what determines who can participate. And it isn't a pass, fail, good or bad. It's simply that a clinical trial is designed to be used in a specific circumstance. So for example, if a clinical trial is supposed to be looking at how effective a treatment for colorectal cancer is, then you have to have colorectal cancer. If you don't, you wouldn't be able to go into the trial, but it doesn't mean that there's anything wrong. Another concept is randomization, and what this means is this allows you to compare. So it's usually an automated process so that when someone enters a trial, they will be randomized to either the study group to get the new drug or the new treatment. They could also call that the experimental group, or they'll be in the control group, which is where they'll get the regular treatment that would normally be given. And sometimes that might be no treatment at all. So that really just allows for comparison. Another concept is about blind. So when you enter a trial, you may not know whether you're getting the study drug or whether you're getting the regular drug. And that concept is being blind. So you really don't know. And double blind is when your nurses and your doctors and your clinicians, they don't know either. So there's no chance of bias in the study because nobody really knows who's getting what. When we talk about your rights, if you do want to participate in a trial and you're considering it, you have the right to at least the current standard of care. So within a trial, you're going to get at least what is currently the best care, potentially something better. You can get information and answers to your questions, but only according to what is known. So one of the things about a clinical trial is it's trying to prove something, but until that's proven, sometimes there are things that are not known. So you can certainly get the information that's available, but some questions can't be answered. You can withdraw at any time and it won't affect your care. You won't be identified individually, so all the results that go forward are all anonymized. And when it's over, if you want to, you can learn about the results. They're often published, but even not, you could ask your doctor for the results of the trial. So now I just want to talk briefly about some of the resources you can use to look for clinical trials or to get more information about clinical trials. And of course, the Canadian Cancer Society is one. We've got some printed material. We've got a toll-free information service you can call and ask questions. And you can also go online to our website. And I'll show you something specific on the website you might be interested in. These are all in the back of the booklet as well. So there's another website called Canadian Cancer Trials, which is put out by the Canadian Partnership Against Cancer, national organization. And they have a feature called Trial Alert. And then also in the USA, the National Cancer Institute has a website that has a lot of clinical trial information. So I'm just going to whip through a few screens just so you would know what you're looking at if you go home to look. So this is the Canadian Cancer Society's website, cancer.ca. Up in the top left, you'll see a large scope of information, lots of different types of cancer and other concepts about clinical trials. If I were to pick colorectal cancer, there, down the left-hand side, you'll see lots of different topics related to the cancer, and one of them is called research and development that's circled there. And what we do in this section is we summarize all the promising research that's going on, whether it be prevention, screening, diagnostic tests, to the treatment section, which obviously is a bit larger. And within those summaries, we have links out to abstracts from the medical literature. So they'll just show you what the supporting evidence is to some of these promising things that are going on. So this might be something you'd be interested to check out. Of course, if you have any questions, you can send an email to the information service or you can call and we'll try to help you out with that. So moving on to the Canadian Cancer Trials website. This is a database that all the provinces contribute to, so has all clinical trials going on in Canada. Along the left-hand side, you can select things such as the type of cancer, you can pick a city, you can pick a drug name, you can add personal things like your age, whether you've had radiation therapy before, lots of different characteristics so that you can come up with a list of trials. So in this one I stuck with colorectal cancer in London, and 16 clinical trials came up. And if we were to go down to one of the ones towards the bottom, this one is oxaliplatin, leucovorin, calcium, and fluorouracil with or without celecoxib in treating patients with stage 3 colon cancer previously treated with surgery. That's a big title, but basically what it will do is give you a summary of that trial. You'll also see what the eligibility criteria are, so who should participate in this trial, which centers and physicians are participating. And so if you're interested in it, what we usually suggest to people is to talk to your doctor about it and they can make that contact in terms of getting connected. And another feature that you'll see, it's in green here on the site, is called Trial Alert. So what you can do is you can go and you can pick one or as many types of cancer as you're interested in. I picked colorectal here. And then basically you'll enter a location if you wish. I picked the province of Ontario, but if you don't want to, you can see what's going on across the country. A period that you would like to get alerts for, so it could be 1 month, 3 months, or forever. Put in your email, agree to the terms, and then you'd be signed up. And basically what would happen then is if you were interested in colorectal cancer and they added a new clinical trial to this database, you will get an email alert so that you kind of know when to go and have a look. And the last resource I was going to tell you about is the National Cancer Institute's website. It's called cancer.gov. They're a government organization in the US. They also have a clinical trial finder. And similar to the Canadian one, you enter the type of cancer and your stage if you know. And the feature that I wanted to promote here is that you can pick a location. And if you go to the city, state, country, I popped it open there just to show you that there's a very long list of countries from which you can choose. I wouldn't say that it's an exhaustive list of every clinical trial in the world, but if you were interested in what's going on beyond Canada, you'll get more trials out of this site. If you do have any questions, you'll have our clinical trial booklet to look at. You can visit our website, you can contact our information service or send an email. Thank you.